First of all, we would like to welcome you to the call for tender webinar of the iProcureSecurity PCP project. My name is Panagiotta Benekou. I'm a project manager of the Center for Security Studies, the lead procurer of the project. Serena? Could you please, Serena, move on with the slide, please?
Here we go.
Okay. We would like to inform you that this session will be recorded and will be published on the iProcureSecurity PCP website. All participants except speakers and moderators will be muted by default. Should you have any question, please feel free to post it in the chat. If you would like to mention something, please raise your hand and wait for the moderator to give you the floor. Serena? The objectives of the webinar are to introduce the iProcureSecurity PCP project and the call for tenders, to introduce the PCP tender documents and procedures, and to dive into the submission process and the innovation procurement platform, and of course, to answer any questions you may have. The presenters of the webinar are Serena Bianchi, Project Manager of Sinio, the Project Coordinator, and Eleni Lianou, Research Associate of the Center for Security Studies, the Lead Procurer. The agenda of the webinar is to present you the consortium and the project, along with the tender procedure, and to provide you a description of the submission process and the innovation procurement platform, and of course, to answer any questions you may have. So I will give the floor to Serena to continue with her presentation. Thank you.
So, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me and see me, I hope?
Yes.
Thank you, Panagiotta, for the introduction. I'm Serena Bianchi, Research Project Manager at Sinio, and I will dive into some specific, sorry, I'm having some issues with the presentation. Apologize for that. So I will give a general introduction on the project itself, and then my colleague from PMEA will dive you into the procedures of the tender documents. So some of you already participated into several events we have organized as project. Some of you are new. So first of all, we would like to present you very briefly the project and the project vision. The scope of the iProcureSecurity PCP is to improve the triage scenario by developing a flexible triage management system. The system is thought specifically for the emergency medical services on the field, but of course will then support all the stakeholders involved in mass casualty incidents. And the project offers 6.7 million euros for the research and development of the solutions. The partners of the project involved are 9 procurers, among them also the lead procurer, PMEA, the Panagiotta is the project manager, and then 8 procurers from 5 different countries, which are Spain, Austria, Italy, Greece, and Turkey, who will be testing the solution, which will be created as part of the project. And additionally, 3 supporting organizations, among them, of course, Sinio, which is the organization I'm representing, and also project coordinator of the iProcureSecurity PCP, together with AAHT and Empirica. In addition to that, the consortium has also an advisory and expert board, which are following the project as external experts, so monitoring the project results and also giving advice when necessary on the project implementation itself. So let's to be very practical on the scope and the core of the project, because we want to leave in this session also some time for you to ask your questions to better understand how to proceed with the offers. So some information on the core and the scope of the iProcureSecurity PCP. First of all, we have identified as consortium also with the activities which has been carried out in the past years through the CSA project, which is the basis of the pre-commercial procurement. We have identified specific issues related to the triage management. First of all, together with our end users, of course, together with the procurers. First of all, issues related to the planning and decision making, meaning often there is a lack of clarity for the head of operations on the ground to control and manage the mass casualty incident and communicate with the dispatch center. Second point was regarding the planning and decision making. Often it happens during a mass casualty incident, the operators do not have all the information on the environment, like the traffic condition, the weather conditions, but also the kind of hazard which is happening. And they are missing also specific data, or they are getting too late specific data which are important and vital for the decision support to improve the whole management of the mass casualty incident. So that's the first, let's say, challenge which has been identified as part of the project. And the idea is to create a solution which fill the gaps which have been identified. The second challenge is the resource allocation for what concern both the equipment and the human resource which are needed during the mass casualty incident. So sometimes due to the missing interoperability of different systems, it's very hard to decide which kind of resources are needed. And again, for doctors, but also equipment which is needed on the ground. Also, sometimes for the emergency medical services on the field is very hard to understand from the data they get what is required, and on the moment when they have to take specific decisions on the ground, but also afterwards when the decisions have been taken, how to analyze the data and the decision making process. And lastly, the automated monitoring of casualties is needed on the ground. So for the emergency medical service, it's very hard to identify specifically how many casualties are on the ground, which kind of support they need, and which kind of resources are needed to support them in an efficient way. The third challenge is the triage practice. So the end user identified as one of the core problems, also core challenges, that the current triage system is not very flexible. And in addition to that, mostly it's done manually. So the idea behind the project is also to digitalize the triage practice and improve not only the triage, the primary triage, but also the second triage, the retriage, meaning monitoring, allowing the people on the EMS to monitor the condition and the vital signs of the casualties on the ground, to, of course, deciding easier and in a more efficient way the kind of treatment they may need and where to be, in which kind of hospital they need to be sent. Fourth challenge is the data transmission. Right now, radio messages which are used by our end users are slow and prone to confusion. So the idea behind this is to create a communication system and a data exchange system which allow an easier and quicker communication among the several stakeholders involved in the mass casualty incident. And lastly, the interoperability on a national level, so allowing the different stakeholders involved in the mass casualty incident to communicate to each other, to exchange information in a smooth and easy way, but also in this way allowing an easier international cooperation among the several stakeholders. Interoperability is, of course, one of the central point among the others. So those are the challenges which have been identified by the consortium, and the challenges we want the suppliers to come up with solutions and with offers. Again, very briefly, the motivations behind it has been based on the real practical need of our end users, of our procurers, based on some specific needs which have been identified, and we have created, with the help of the consortium and of our end users, let's call it wish list or requirements, which are needed to implement the triage management system. And based, of course, on the challenges we have identified, so they need to have a quicker assessment not of the situation on site, meaning the number of casualties, the specific location, but also the status of the casualties on the ground. This will allow to to have a better and quicker plan on site during the event. This will improve, of course, the reaction time for changing situations. As we know, the mass casualty incidents can be very hard to face, and situation is changing continuously, so they need to adapt in a very efficient and quick way. To make data available, to make better informed decisions and support the decision-making process of the emergency medical services. More reliable tagging of casualties, as I was mentioning before. So far, everything is done manually first on paper, and this can be sometimes very hard to share the information, to make the process easier. So a new reliable tagging for the casualties is needed. This will allow also better interoperability among the relevant stakeholders, not only for the people on the field, the emergency medical services on the field, but also for national authorities, law enforcement, dispatch centers, and all the stakeholders involved in the disaster management. Better distribution of resources, of course, as I mentioned before, increase the transportation of casualties, meaning deciding where the hospitals are located and which kind of which casualty need which kind of treatment. So that's one of the common need. And yeah, that's the whole system is thought, of course, to facilitate the work of the emergency medical services and to allow them to take easier and more quick decisions, which can save then lives, of course. So that's very briefly say the scope and the main concept of the project. The focus, as mentioned, is on the field, meaning when a mass casualty incident happened, for those people who are active, saving life. And of course, it will be affecting also all the other stakeholders, as you can see from the slide. We have ambulances, hospitals, paramedics, but also law enforcement agencies, fire rescuers. So we have different categories of actors which are playing a role then, and which are taking advantage of the solution we are building through the project. And yeah, so that's basically, I would skip it to leave more time also to the tender documents. I will skip this slide as we have already a little bit highlighted the process itself. To introduce the next session by my colleague Eleni from CHEMEA, the project is a pre-commercial procurement, meaning fostering research and development, as briefly mentioned. It is structured into different phases, and you will go through in the next couple of minutes. So how the phases are divided. It is a competitive process, meaning that several contractors will be active in the several phases. And at the end, at least 2 solutions will be fully tested by our end users in the very last phase of the project. But I will then leave the floor to my colleague Eleni, so she will be explaining you better the whole procedure.
Thank you, Serena. So hello, everybody. I'm Eleni Yanou. I'm a research associate of CHEMEA, and together we will dive in more details on the tender procedure. Actually, what the iProcureSecurity Consortium is expecting from the technology vendors in order to submit a successful tender. Next, please. So I will present you the expected timeline and the specific formal aspects of the process, meaning the envelopes and the cover letter that the technology vendors have to fill in and submit through our platform. Next, please. So our roadmap, and here you can see the important deadlines of the whole process. Of course, what is important for the suppliers to take into account is the deadline for submitting offers, which is the 31st of August. And this deadline is for, of course, the submission of the digital envelopes through the platform, and the cover letter that has to be also received by post to the premises of CHEMEA. I will, of course, explain you more in details later on. Next, please. So the whole tender package, which is already uploaded and published in our website, is comprised of 12 tender documents and their annexes. And what is important to highlight is that the tender document, the main tender document, which is tender document number 1, the call for tenders, must of course be read in conjunction with the other tender documents, meaning the cover letter, the technical offer, financial offer and cost breakdown, the declarations that should be filled in and submitted, and the framework agreement, which is the draft of the framework agreement that successful tenders need to sign together with the lead procurer. The PCP specific contracts that will be signed for each phase, and the end of phase report, as well as the contractor details and project abstracts. Of course, in the tender document number 1, you can see 4 annexes, a checklist of tender documents and actions, which is of course a very helpful annex for all suppliers, describing in an analytical way what is expected and where should be included. Annex 2, which is the information about the buyers group, and Annex 3 and 4, which is the challenge brief and requirements, use cases, and process models. Next, please. So tender documents, here you can see the annex, the first annex, as I told you, that is which includes a table where you can easily see what is expected to be included where, meaning in which envelope. Just to explain you that you are expected to submit 3 envelopes, digitally, of course. The first envelope includes all declarations, TD 4, 5, 6, and 7. Please note that TD 6, please note that TD 5 is mandatory only for tenders that are going to form consistent consortium, and the tender document number 6 is mandatory only if the tender has subcontractors. Envelope B includes the tender document number 2, which is the technical offer, and the tender document number 8, which is the declaration of pre-existing rights. And then we have the third envelope, which is the envelope C, including the tender document number 3, which is the financial offer. And of course, you can find the cover letter, which has to be filled in, signed and stamped, and sent via post to the lead procurer. Next, please. So, as I already mentioned, the cover letter should be also sent by post and should be received by no later than the the cover letter should indicate that it relates to the specific dossier and should be addressed to the real procurer. Here you can find the address. The address, of course, you can find the address, of course, in the tender document number 1. The cover letter should be delivered by one of the following ways, either by hand at the official registry office of CHEMEA, or by registered post services with shipment notice. In this case, you should inform CHEMEA about the dispatch of the tender, indicating, attaching the proof of the date of shipment, which once more I would like to highlight that should be before the deadline of for the submission of tenders. And finally, as of the cover letter should be signed by the tenderer or its duly, of course, accredited representative who has the powers to legally bind either the legal or the natural person, stating the full name and identifying the tender, a telephone number, and an email address for contact. Next, please. So envelopes, as I mentioned just a while ago, we have 3 envelopes that should be submitted. So all offers should be submitted in 3 separate envelopes, envelope A, B, and C. And envelopes all of them are digital and should only be submitted via the Innovation Procurement platform. Next, please. The envelope A, the first envelope, comprises tender document number 7, which is the legal capacity and the representation of the tenderers. In the case of a joint tender, tender document number 5 should be also filled in and included in the envelope A. In case of subcontracting, the subcontracting statement the number 6 should be also filled in and submitted. Moreover, within the envelope A, the tender document number 4, which is the compliance with the exclusion, selection, and on-off award criteria, should be filled in and submitted. Next, please. In envelope B, which is actually the technical envelope, the envelope where the technical offer will be included, which must include the technical plan that outlines the overall idea for addressing the requirements given in the PCP challenge description, the technical detail or details on how this would be implemented, and the project management plan, which outlines the execution and monitoring approach, including, of course, a Gantt chart. As you may see, this part should be linked with the weight and quality award criteria, namely the contract implementations, the functional quality criteria, the non-functional quality criteria, the commercial feasibility and evaluation of the solution and sustainability of testing. Moreover, in the technical offer, a draft business plan that explains the proposed approach to commercially exploit the results of the PCP should be included. A risk assessment, a risk mitigation strategy, a reply to the question whether the tender involves any ethical reason issues. This is just a yes or no, and the only case that you tick yes, you have to explain and to give more explanation on this. And finally, the technical offer will include the tender document number 8, which is the declaration of pre-existing rights. It's a template that you just fill in if needed. Next, please. The third envelope, it's envelope C, and includes the financial offer, which specifies, actually it's a specific template that you have to fill in, and the financial offer specifies the binding unit prices for all items needed for carrying out, first of all, phase 1, and then you also have to provide binding unit prices for items that are expected to be needed for phases 2 and 3. All amounts are given in euros, excluding VAT. And then in the financial offer, you have to specify the fixed total price for phase 1 and estimation of the total price for phases 2 and 3. And all these prices should be broken down to show unit prices and the number of each unit needed to carry out phase 1. Next, please. The financial offer has to include the detail. You don't have to worry, it's not something complex because there is a specific template that should be filled in. So the financial offer should include a price breakdown that shows that the price for R&D services and price for suppliers of products. This should be done because you need to demonstrate the compliance with the definition of R&D. Meaning that more than 50% of the price should be linked to R&D services and not to products. And price breakdown that shows that the location or the country in which the different categories of activities are to be carried out. And this should be done in order to demonstrate compliance with the requirement relating to the place of performance. This is on-off work criterion C. And the financial compensation valuing the benefits and risk of allocation of ownership of the IPRs to the contractor. So you have to give an absolute value for the price reduction between the price offered compared to the exclusive development price. So what is needed is a virtual and actual price to be indicated in the financial offer template. Next, please. So that was from my side. I will pass again the floor to my colleague Serena for the submission procedure. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Sorry, I lost the very last part. Thank you very much, Eleni. We will go forward with the submission procedure and then we will leave you the time for the questions. Okay, so about the submission of the offers, first, for very important information, as Eleni mentioned, the submission is done electronically through the innovation procurement platform only, beside the cover letter, which must be additionally sent per post. Following that, the submission will follow the uploading of the different envelopes, which have been highlighted by Eleni right now. The deadline, again, is the 31st of August to submit the offers, and the language for submitting offers is English only. So what is the innovation procurement platforms for those who weren't present in the previous event? The platform is the tool, it's basically two main functions. The first one is a matchmaking tool, because as you have heard from Eleni, also there is a possibility to create consortia and to present offer as part of a consortium. So the platform allows you to get in contact with other suppliers, checking what are their expertise and skills, and see whether there could be a good match for presenting the proposal together. And the second function is, of course, it's a submission tool, meaning the whole submission procedure will run through the innovation procurement platform. And we will explain you how these exactly work now in the next slides. So first point, registration is mandatory for submitting your offers. meaning if you have to first register your organization on the innovation procurement platform, and this will allow you first to showcase your products and services from one side, on the other side to manage your organization profile, see which other suppliers are interested in the call for tender, contact them if there is the interest, and lastly, of course, as registered organization, you can submit the call for tender offers. The registration is on the innovation procurement platform is pretty intuitive. If you go on the link, as you can see from the button above, there is the registration link. If you experience any issue, we also have a manual and a video tutorial you can follow, which is also on the platform itself. And you can follow the indications. If you still have issues, technical issues, of course, don't hesitate to ask and come back to us. So being registered on the innovation procurement platform allows you also to, as I said, not only see the tenders, but also submit offers. So you will land into the admin base where you will be able to check all the open, forthcoming, and closed tenders. Of course, the one concerning the iProcureSecurity PCP is the one of interest in this webinar. So you will, by clicking on that, you will be able to submit, click on the submit button, and starting a new submission process. As you can see from the slide, as soon as you submit the tender, you will be able to manage it. So by clicking on the specific one, you will be able to start the procedure and manage your tender offer. Just an overview on how to prepare it. To make it easier, all the envelopes have already their tender documents listed, which must be uploaded. So no worries to remember which tender documents belongs in which envelope, because it is written. You simply have to follow the procedure. So you will have this small window on the left side giving a tender submission overview with some basic general information on the tender, and also some general information on the procedure. And then if you click on the several sections, you will have a detailed description on what is needed. And as we mentioned before, you have, for example, for the envelope A, which is the administrative section, the option to upload the specific tender documents. In the case of envelope A, for example, you will have the tender document 7, 5, 8, and 4, and so on for all the section. So you will simply have to go through the different envelopes and upload the right document. Again, we would like to highlight, because it's pretty important, that the cover letter must be also sent per post. Of course, the address and all the information are also part of the call for tender document. So you can check it again on the given call for tender PDF. And yeah, once you have uploaded the specific PDF or different formats depending on the document, you can view them or delete them. So you have the time to reassess in case you see that something is wrong or something is missing. You have the time to assess until you submit on the submit button. So as soon as you have all the right document uploaded, click on submit, and then you won't be able to change what you have submitted, of course, but until that point, you can delete or view or re-upload any document you want. That's briefly the whole submission procedure. It is pretty intuitive, but anyhow, again, for any issues, we also have a help center. The help center is also as part of in the general overview, you will find all the information and all the email. We have two specific email. One is for the IT support for tender submission, meaning if you're experiencing any technical problem with the platform, you can contact the office at iProcureSecurity.eu. All technical questions related to the platform can be sent until the very last day of the submission, meaning the 30th of August. and we will support you. For what concern tender documents, you can contact the email you can see here directly to the lead procurer, Chemea. So questions related to tender documents must be sent before the 30th of July. So it's an earlier deadline. And all the questions will be answered and published then on the frequently asked questions section on our project website. So we will gather them and give the proper answer, and you will find the answer then on the dedicated section. Of course, we will inform you as soon as the answers are published on the website. So that's it for what concerns the submission procedure. We would like now to leave the floor to you to ask your questions and clear the doubts if you have any. Of course, you can also write down the questions on the chat. So if you prefer this way. Okay, so I see one question, which I pass to the lead procurer. What kind of signature is required for the documents? Digital signature for the electronic submission and hand signature for the cover letter that must be sent by post? Yeah, pass it to Eleni.
Yes, thank you, Serena. There's no need for a digital signature for the digital envelopes. This is also clear from the tender documents. So the electronic submission needs no signature. As of the cover letter, the simplified signature can be accepted, and the signature should be, of course, put in the cover letter that is going to be sent via post to the Chemea premises. Thank you.
So I go forward with the next question. Payment terms seem to favor primes rather than SMEs. In phase 2, the delay in payment might result in 300K delay, in phase 3 up to 800K before first payments are received, especially as decision-making process will lead to 30-day delay followed by 30-day payment terms. Would it be not more reasonable in view of the small numbers of contractors to do monthly payment based on deliverables/milestones being met as in other EU-funded programs? Maybe I kindly ask you to unmute yourself and ask directly to Chemea to make it easier. It's a long question.
Serena, I think it was clear. What I would like to say is that there is no provision to amend, modify, or any way change the provisions of the call for tenders. So since it's a public procurement process and the tenders have been already published, all provisions will remain valid at the end of the whole process, meaning until the end of the third PCP phase. So there is no actual provision in order to change or modify what the payment schedule as suggested.
Thank you. Next question. When it comes to ethics, I would expect that any recruitment of volunteers for the pilots will be covered by the buyers group, right? And Eleni, if you want to start, otherwise I can also.
Yes, Serena, please, because I'm not familiar with this aspect, but yeah.
Okay,
if
so
you could, yeah, please.
in the call for tender and also in the requirements, you will see in the call for tender there are some specific requirements related to the ethics which must be respected by the suppliers. So there are guidelines on how to create an offer and propose an offer which is in compliance with the ethics. Since we don't know at this point which kind, how the solution will look like and which kind of ethics issue may occur during the piloting phase, depending on the solution which are proposed, part of the ethics must be also explained by the suppliers. So if they foresee to face any ethical issues, they must explain what are the mitigation strategies for it. Next question, what is the document limit / pages for envelope B? Eleni, you want to answer that?
Yeah, please give me a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for waiting. So in the tender document number 1, the call for tenders, it's mentioned that for the technical offer, maximum limit is 50 pages with minimum font size 11 and page margin 15.
Next question, always related to the ethics. Ethics committee approval can be problematic as each ethics committee is idiosyncratic by its nature that can cause delays due to their resubmission. A 4-month turnaround is not uncommon and so may place significant risk, including financial, to the progress of the project. Do you have any thoughts on mitigation compensation for such delay across 5 organizations?
Actually, it's a hypothetical question, so we will give an answer if needed, when needed.
Next question, whether we can explain again the content of the financial offer and more in detail the financial compensation valuing the benefits and risks.
Yes. So for the financial offer, as you can see in the template that has been provided, it's the template that you have to fill in. You are requested to provide binding unit prices per each unit price for phase 1, and then an estimation of prices for phase 2 and phase 3. Moreover, as of the virtual and actual price, what is expected from you is to offer the price taking into account that IPRs will remain to the contractors, and also in virtual price, what would be the price if IPRs would not remain to the contractors.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What level of interoperability with the 5 organization third parties IT solutions do you require? There are 24 separate software systems, full integration with required APIs, data sharing agreements, agreed third parties cooperation, and resources all of which will be difficult to achieve in an 8-month project. So the interoperability, I'll try to answer, and then maybe Eleni, if you have anything to add. The interoperability requirements are also specified in the call for tender, what is needed for each organization, or what is wished for each organization. So as part of the tender document number 1, you will have a specific list of IT interoperability requirements which are needed and which are wished by the procurers for the envisaged solution. I don't know if there is any additional, Eleni, you would like to make on the interoperability requirements.
No, Serena, thank you.
Maybe one technical information to add to that is that also is mentioned in the tender documents. What will be important is that the interoperability concept itself is sound, and as the procurers are actually looking for a system which can also in future connect to additional software. So which means it's important from our end to show that whatever is provided will also be sustainable and will also be able to be quite flexible. So openness and flexibility is, as mentioned also in the requirements, quite important. Serena, I don't know if you saw them also in the chat. We have a few messages, so not just in the Q&A part, but maybe they only show up at my end. So there's one question which says, can you explain what is understood by place of performance?
Yes, may I, Bernhard?
Please, Eleni.
It's Eleni. The place for performance is the place where the R&D services will take place, and there is a requirement of the place of performance, meaning that at least 50% of the R&D services should take place in EU member state or Horizon 2020 associated country.
Very good. Another one, can you explain what is meant by transfer of IPR to the procurer? I think, Eleni, this is also for you to take.
When we're talking about IPRs, we're talking about the IPRs generated within the iProcureSecurity PCP, meaning that as we have already foreseen the call for tenders, IPRs that will be generated during the PCP will remain to the contractors and not to the procurers. So I don't know if I answered to your question, or you would like to ask something else, but IPRs will remain to the contractors.
Okay, there was one other question. Can you confirm that a subcontractor is a different entity from a consortium member?
Yeah, you can see in the tender documents, in the tender's eligibility, tenders can be submitted either by a single entity or by a joint tender. And within this consortium, within this tender, a subcontractor can be also foreseen. but this is different from the tender or the joint tender, the companies that form the joint tender.
Okay, the next one we have covered already, and I think this one we haven't covered yet. We would like to know if the participation in a tender is allowed by consortium joint tenders, where some partners companies are part as subsidiary companies of the same industrial group.
There is no such a limitation. So the answer is yes.
Very good, and I think we have covered
There is
on the chat.
still one question, and it's on how many battle sign monitoring devices and triage tags do you require for phase 2 and 3 testing? So these questions is answered also in the call for tender, where you will find exactly the specifications requested by the procurers, which we can also maybe provide a detailed answer in the frequently asked questions as soon we have double checked. But anyhow, the answer is already available on the call for tender. So from my side, there are no further questions. If that's the case.
We have one more question from Strahil. Can the financial compensation be 0? Eleni, I think this is also for you to take. Eleni, we
Yes,
cannot-
yes. Sorry,
Yeah, now we can hear
sorry.
you.
Yeah, I was right. Yeah. You can find the financial compensation part in the financial section. It's 4.5 of the call for tender. There is no provision for
Eleni, you're breaking up. Eleni, sorry, we cannot hear you.
if I was.
Now we.
You
you're
could.
back.
Oh, sorry. Again. Sorry. So you can find the financial compensation provision in the call for tender document number 1 in 4.5 section, where where is expected by the suppliers to submit to give an absolute value for the price reduction between the price offered and compared to the exclusive development price. There is no limitation on the amount. Yes, it could be 0, but still we believe that at least the benefits and risk of the allocation of ownerships of the IPRs to to the contractor should be reflected.
Very good. All right, we would have a few more minutes. There are another questions coming in. In case of a consortium, in brackets joint tenders, answering the call, have the following documents to be provided by each partner of the consortium, excluding the subcontractors, or only by the lead tenderer contractor. Declaration of honor, TD4, and legal capacity, TD7.
Yeah, just give me a second to suggest the exact section in our call for tenders. The question is for TD4, correct?
The question is for TD4 and TD7. In case of a consortium answering the call, have the following documents to be provided by each partner of the consortium. So if there is a joint tender, the question is if each partner of the consortium has to provide the declaration of honor and the legal capacity,
Yes.
or only the lead tenderer contractor.
It's in the section 3.2, where in case of joint tenders, all members of the consortium or a group of tenders must fill in and submit TD5. It was for TD5, no? Sorry,
TD4,
because I cannot see.
Sorry, TD4 and TD7.
Sorry, it's
The declaration of honor and legal capacity, it says here.
Declaration of honor. Sorry for this delay, but we can continue with other questions, if any, and I will come back to you in a few seconds.
Yeah, so I'll go with the next one. Is there any additional point if the offer is presented by a consortium or a public administration like university or from several countries? I think we can answer that there is no additional point for public administrations or consortia or several countries involved.
No, there is no additional point foreseen.
Maybe in the meantime, we can remind once more that for all questions that are upcoming, please provide them by the 30th of July, as that's the deadline for sending in questions, which then will be answered right afterwards. And also our suggestion, please also register as early as possible on the innovationprocurement.com platform, so to ensure everything is working out. And yeah, very typical for those of you who are also know Horizon Europe proposals. So also our suggestion is submit as early as possible. Don't wait for the very last second. And beyond that, please also mind, and this is there's a different compared to this submission system. You can only submit once. So if you have submitted once, then also the session will be closed, which means if you want to resubmit, you would have to include the file once more and make another submission. So therefore, there's also, and that's also mentioned in the system, and you're made aware of before submitting, but please mind, ideally upload the files, double check that everything is fine, and then submit it. However, also resubmission would not take very long. Good.
Yeah,
Emily?
just to come back to the question that we didn't answer. So for TD4 and TD7, yes, all members of the consortium should fill in and submit the declaration of honor, TD4, and the legal capacity of the tender statement, TD7.
All right. Very good. I think there are no more questions in the chat or the Q&A part. So we'd like to thank all of you for joining. And I'm not sure, Eleni, is there anything else from your end which is important as a takeaway message for our suppliers that to apply for the call for tender?
Yes, just to remind to all the suppliers that questions are expected to be sent by email, and no other means of communication are foreseen. So once you submit a question, we will include it in the Q&A document, which be published in the platform and in our website as well. We will try to update the Q&A document regularly, so there will not be just a last moment reply, but there will be a document that will be regularly updated and uploaded in the website and in the platform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for participating. For questions, again, don't hesitate to come back to us. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice lunch break.